Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and we want everybody with an invisible condition to know beyond the shadow of a doubt, you do have a voice, you do have a community, and you are never, ever alone. Here on Invisible Condition, we get it, okay? We know that life can be tough sometimes. And we also know that there is always hope, always. So that's kind of how we operate around here, in hope. And so I want to mention a couple things before we get started with our amazing guest today. I want to talk to you about two things. One is our nonprofit, and our nonprofit organization, our nonprofit arm of Invisible Condition is called Hydro with Hope. And Hydro with Hope helps families and individuals who are living with a condition that I was born with called hydrocephalus, which requires brain surgery every once in a while, for some more than others. For me, I've had 7 so far, starting at 2 weeks old, and my last one was about 3 years ago. I'm pretty sure I'm planning on that being my last one. I don't ever want to have brain surgery again. So brain surgery is a big deal. We want to help families that are going through this. We are actively looking for board members for our nonprofit so that they can help us get to where we need to be so that we can help more families. We are at a point right now where we have more things we need to do than we have resources to do them. So if you or anybody that you are in business with or know, or if you know of somebody that would be an amazing addition to our board, I would love to talk to you and them. Email me right here at invisiblecondition@e360tv.com. I would love to have that conversation. Also, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is sponsors and advertisers. This is an amazing platform. E360 TV is incredible, and our show is growing. We've grown every month since we've been on the air, and I'm so thankful for our audience. Thank you so much for being here. And if you have a product or service that you want to get in front of our audience, I would love to talk to you about that as well, because I'm all about bringing value to our audience. And so bring it on. Email me at this email right here, invisiblecondition@e360tv.com. Let's have a conversation. You never know. Never know till you ask, right? If you don't ask, the answer is always no. So let's talk. All right. Now, I want to introduce you to Melissa Deely, and Melissa's amazing. She talks about being secure in her career as, camera, come on. Welcome to live TV, everybody. What is going on with my camera? Come on, focus. Are we going to have to start this over? Come on. What's wrong with this thing? There we go. Okay. I'm going to start that over. We're going to try that again. I'll just edit it later. I hate editing, but I'm going to edit it anyway. Okay. Our guest today her name is Melissa Deely, and she talks about being secure in her career as national sales director with why is it going blurry again? God, it's going blurry again. Okay. I'm so sorry, Melissa. This is crazy. This camera is never this temperamental. I don't understand what's going on. Okay. Oh, good Lord. Melissa Deely is my guest today, and she talks about being secure in her career as national sales director with a major hotel chain, to then being guided by a series of events to where she is now, a passionate integrative health practitioner. I love that. Integrative health. That's what I love. I love integrative health. Melissa describes one moment of frustration with a medical professional. Surprised it's just one. I've had many. We'll talk about that. This frustrating moment with a medical professional was resulted in her realization that she was done with mainstream medicine. I'm with you. She has found natural solutions to help herself and her daughters with food intolerances, concussions, migraines, and eventually her own metastatic malignant melanoma, that's a big deal. Usually that's like medical, very medical. I'm very excited to get to talk about that. Melissa has now earned multiple health and life coaching certifications and is an expert in transformation mastery for clients worldwide. Melissa is an international speaker, 5-time best-selling author, yes, and hosts an award-winning podcast called Don't Wait for Your Wake-Up Call. Let's bring her on and talk to her, see what the heck is going on. This is amazing. Oh, Melissa, thank you so much for being here. It was a little bit tricky today to get here, but here we are. Thank you so much.
Here we are, and I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, Jeff.
Here we are. Oh my goodness. So there's a lot in that intro. I tell you, there's a lot there, and I absolutely love your approach. And sometimes to get out on the other side like that, you have to go through some crazy. And I think I said this in my intro. We talk about hope a lot around here, and I have a question for you regarding that. During the crazy time, during the hard days, during the, that we all encounter, whether we're in good health or not, like how do you still maintain hope?
It's a great question. And I love that you mentioned it in your intro, because it's something that is such an important part of anyone's healing journey. Because the moment we don't have hope, we shut down our ability to heal. Yep. And so in terms of working with clients, when they often don't have hope because they've been told, here, take this pill for the rest of your life, or this is how long you have, or whatever. And that shuts down all hope. And when they work with me and I share with them the way that I can guide them on their healing journey and other people that have healed, that gives them hope, and they can borrow mine until they start to see the shifts and their own healing, and that develops their hope. For me, in maintaining my hope, particularly through the metastatic malignant melanoma journey, that was me tapping deep into my training and knowing that fear was going to tank my immune system at a time that I needed it most, and taking the action steps to get me out of fear and be able to maintain my hope. It also meant leaning in on community that was supporting my decision-making in the journey that I was on, versus people that are questioning, what do I know? And don't you know this is what you do for cancer? So really aligning myself with the people that were supporting my decisions and tapping into that community of people that uplifted me so that I could maintain my level of hope. And it was a combination of both. And I'm so grateful for the journey that I've been on, because if I'd had the cancer while I was still in the corporate world, I wouldn't have had the knowledge that I have. I wouldn't have had the training that I had, and I would have gone the mainstream medical path. And who knows what that outcome would have been, as opposed to the outcome that I've had, where I was skiing a week after my surgery and I had both surgeons telling me every step of the way. I just had a follow-up ultrasound last week. We can't believe how quickly you've healed and how well you've healed. And it's because of the choices I made on my healing journey, which I just want to say at the outset to the entire audience that, first off, our acute care system is excellent. And if we're in a car accident or we have a broken limb, there's nowhere that I would rather be than in our acute care system.
Totally.
Our mainstream medical model, though, it is broken, unfortunately. And doctors get into it with the best of intentions of helping people. However, they're only trained in what they're trained in. And it's the training that's broken, unfortunately, because they're given limited training with the desire to have them write prescriptions, because that earns money for the system. And I'm not a surgeon. I don't know how to be a surgeon, and I'm not going to attempt surgery on anybody. However, my training is different, and it is integrative, and it is holistic, and it is in understanding that our body has an incredibly innate ability to heal when we create the environment for it to be able to heal. And creating that environment requires understanding the toxic load on the body, the nutrient deficiencies on the body, which is coming from a food industry that is, again, about money and not about nutrition. And so between our high stress levels, our lack of good nutrition, and our low nutrient uptake, and our toxic load, we are creating chronic illness. And a medical model that just gives you a pill for the rest of your life is a Band-Aid solution versus looking at the lifestyle changes that we can make and the importance of sleep and lowering stress and good nutrition and exercise, et cetera, and detoxing. That's how we bring the body back into a place where it has the resources to be able to heal. That's where we create the environment for the body to be able to heal. So that's what I do. And through my training, I was able to do that for myself. I believe each and every one of us has the right to make the decision about our healing journey for ourselves. I just want you to have all the choices so you can make an informed decision. Just because I chose the path I chose doesn't mean it's the right path for you. And I'm not saying everybody should do what I did. I'm just sharing my story because it allows you to then see, maybe there's another way. Maybe I want to learn more about that just to be informed and then make a choice. And that's what this is all about today. I'm not here to down talk any doctor out there. They all have the best of intentions. Their training is based on what they're trained on, and my training is based on what I'm trained on.
Well, that's all we have today, everybody. That was perfect. Like, you just encapsulated probably the whole episode right there. It's like, everybody get everything they need. Okay, cool. That was fantastic. Yes. I had to hold myself back from saying, amen. That was awesome. Yeah. So yes, totally. And obviously you're very open about this kid, the fact that you were able to eradicate that cancer naturally and not have to go through frankly, the poisoning of your body to kill the cancer and hopefully not kill you, and I know everybody's, like you said, everybody's got a different journey. Everybody makes different decisions, and you only know what you know.
Exactly.
And you don't know what you don't know. So I don't fault anybody for going for, your medical journey is yours alone. So, but yours in particular is amazing. And I think we should talk more about that. So take us back to that moment that you first realized that something was wrong. And then what was that experience like? When you first got that news, what did you do?
So when I first realized something was wrong, and I have very fair skin and I've got the red in my hair, right? So I am susceptible to sunburn. And up until about the age of, 7 or 8 years old, we didn't even use sunscreen as kids. So I was often very pink and very burned, right? So the damage was done in those early years of my life. And as a result, I knew that I was susceptible to melanoma. And so I did actually see a skin cancer specialist every year it was just part of my protocol to look for any potential issues. And I had this weird mole on the lower right outside of my leg. And it was kind of pink in color. It wasn't my regular skin color. And so years ago, I had pointed this out to the skincare specialist, and he had said to me, he tested it and he goes, you know what, that's fine. It's a type of cancer where it's like thick icing on a cake. It sits on top of the cake and it never goes down into the skin. And he goes, it'll be fine. We'll just watch it. So I'm like, okay. And it had been there for about 10 years. And then now, 3 years ago, it started to change. And, I know enough about melanoma to know you're looking for the changes in the moles, you're looking for the darkening of the color, et cetera, and them getting kind of scratchy. And it started to do that. So I showed it to him at the next appointment, and he looked at it and went, no, it's fine. I went, okay. A year later, it was still changing more. And I'm like, and it wasn't even a year later. It's probably about 9 months later. I'm like, I really don't like this. So I booked in early for my appointment that year. He still told me it was fine. Okay. He retired at the end of that year. And I had to find a new specialist. And so when I saw the new specialist in January of 2024, they said, let's do a biopsy of this. And I'm like, you know what? Good idea. Because I'm just not comfortable with it. And it's been a couple of years I've been watching this, right? And so we did. And a couple of days later, came back with the results of metastatic malignant melanoma. And when I got that news, I listened to my intuition, and my intuition said, don't panic. Now the medical system was panicking. They're like, we have to remove this. We have to remove this right away. And I'm just like, just, hold your horses. I want to have this removed, by a plastic surgeon. It's going to be a big surgery because I know you have to take the 3 centimeters around, et cetera, et cetera. However, I'm not going to sit on this. I'm going to take it seriously. My father passed away of melanoma when he was 40 years old and I was only 13. And he'd had the original diagnosis, or his mother had seen the mole behind his ear in April and he went to the doctor in November, and this is 1981, right? So different medical model and system then. And it had spread. So I wasn't going to stuff around. So I book in to see the surgeon, and I think I'm having the mole removed that day because I'm thinking it's just a mole, right? Just remove the mole. And I get down to the clinic and I'm in an office and I realize, I'm not having surgery today, I don't think. So I asked her, let's be really clear here. Am I having surgery today? No. Oh, you're here so I can tell you your protocol today. And then we'll go from there. And I went, okay. And she said, so that protocol requires that we remove some lymph nodes. And prior to doing that, you need to go to the physics department of the hospital down the street. They're going to flood you with some blue toxin so that will show which lymph nodes need to be removed. And then we're going to remove them all. And we're going to do all of this under general surgery. And then she proceeded to tell me that the reason we needed to remove the lymph nodes was to determine my chemo and my radiation treatment. And in my mind, as a holistic practitioner, and knowing what I do know, I have zero interest in chemo and radiation because I know how toxic they are. I know they destroy the immune system. And yes, they can also destroy the cells, and they can tell you that your cancer cells are, reduced or gone. However, you have no immune system left to fight anything else. And how many people do we all know that have a health crisis, go through chemo and radiation, and then it comes back?
Right.
And now the immune system can't fight it. So I didn't want to go there. And I know that there are ways to support reducing cancer cells with things like high dose vitamin C, because cancer cells have 7 times the sugar receptors of healthy cells. And the chemical or the molecular structure of vitamin C and sugar is interestingly very similar. So the cancer cells confuse the vitamin C and think it's sugar and attract it to them. And the vitamin C kills the cancer cells while leaving your healthy cells intact. So I knew that I would much rather do that.
Oh, yeah.
So and this doctor, meanwhile, this is going through my head. And the doctor is also now telling me all of the possible negative side effects of having my lymph nodes removed, of which one of them is losing my mobility. And I live in the outdoors. I love to ski. I love to paddleboard. I love to hike. And I'm thinking, I like my lymph nodes where they are. And I like to be able to move and walk. And I'm 56. I don't want to not have any mobility for the rest of my life because I've got longevity that, I look after myself and I'm going to 100 or beyond, right?
Yeah.
So I literally said that to her. I said, I am not interested in having my lymph nodes removed. And I'm not interested in chemo and radiation. I will have the mole removed. That's what I will agree to. And then I will do my own treatment. And at which point she said, well, the reason that you need to do this is there's a database in Australia that says there's a 12% chance that this is metastasized to other parts of your body. And there's a database in New York that says there's a 9% chance. And so it's really important that you do this. And again, I'm thinking 9 and 12%, those are really no numbers. We're not 79 and 82%.
Right.
And she proceeded to give me documents and said, I think you should go home and read about this. And here's the document to sign for your surgery and for your lymph node removal. Ugh. And I went, okay, I'll take the documents. I'll sign for the surgery, and I'm not signing for the lymph node removal. And I drove home. Now that's a 2-hour drive home where I'm by myself. And you get in your head, right?
Yep.
Start questioning. Do I really know enough to follow my own path here? Should I listen to the doctor? The doctor's been to school and da 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 da. And then I realized, because of all of my training, it came in really quick. Nope. That's putting you in fear. That's fear coming out. You can't be in fear. You have to be strong here, because fear will tank your immune system, because fear causes stress, and stress literally tanks your immune system. And anybody watching, just think about how many times you've been stressed out and then you get sick, right? Even if you're stressed out getting ready to go on vacation. This used to happen to me all the time in the corporate world.
Yes.
I'd worked so hard to go on vacation. The moment I got on vacation and relaxed, then now I get sick because of all the stress leading up to going on vacation, right?
Right.
So I knew that, I knew I needed my immune system. So then all of my training kicks in, right? We train people, let's not be on Victim Island. Let's be in Solution City. How can we be in Solution City? So the first thing to get me there was, how is this happening for me? Because when I understand that this is happening for me instead of to me, I'm not a victim anymore. And I can embrace the benefit of this, because everything is actually always happening for us to learn something. Even though in the moment we're in the muck and it feels, we're still there to learn something. Because if we never learned anything, life, unicorns and roses and all that all the time and being perfect, well, that would be boring. So here we are looking to learn something. And the answer came to me. So you have a powerful health story to share with your audience and others and show people there is another way.
Yep.
I went, okay, I can do that. I've got my podcast. I've got all the work that I do. I can do that. And I'm happy to share that with people. So that's the whole purpose behind my work, is just to educate people and give people choices.
Amazing.
So then I went, okay.
No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but this is I feel like this is a good spot. So we're going to go to a break real quick. I don't want to cut you off because you're on a roll. I want to make sure that we make the sponsors happy, and we will continue when we get back. And there is more to the story, everybody. So please stick around. Don't go anywhere. I know we've got you on the hook now. You can't wait to hear the rest. So do not go anywhere, and we will see you in just a couple of minutes. Stick around. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about our sponsor, Dunamis Marriages. And now, struggling marriages often lead to a dramatic sense of disconnection from your spouse that can seem suffocating. Even if your marriage is doing pretty well, there is a way for you to thrive no matter what. Dunamis Marriages believes that God designed marriage to be a lifelong, heart-connected journey. And they're here to help you get there at Dunamis Marriages. Located in Colorado Springs, Colorado, their faith-based marriage intensive has an 83% success rate. I'm going to say that again, 83% success rate. Guiding couples through deep emotional healing and lasting transformation. Why is that important? Because most marriage counseling has a less than 10% success rate, leaving broken hearts and marriages in its wake. Led by Dr. Pauline Dillard, who brings over 42 years of marital wisdom, these marriage intensives are different. Typical marriage counseling is more of a once a week for an hour type of thing that can last for years and really end up getting you nowhere. The intensive model that Dr. Pauline uses brings couples together. Each session lasts about 2 to 3 hours and is conducted over 5 to 6 sessions. The time that you invest in a marriage intensive will combine biblical truth with proven psychological principles to restore communication, trust, and intimacy. At Dunamis Marriages, they don't just treat symptoms. They equip you with the tools to build a thriving, Christ-centered marriage. If you're ready to break free from frustration and rekindle your relationship God's way, act now. Visit DunamisMarriages.com today. That's DUNAMAS healthymarriages.com and take that first step toward a stronger, more fulfilling marriage. Build your marriage on a solid foundation and enjoy your spouse like you never thought possible.
Hi, I'm Amy Joy, and I'm the host of Get Your Together Live with Amy Joy. And you can catch me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific on the amazing Trajectory channel right here on E360 TV.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. We are here with Melissa Deely, and thank you so much for being here, Melissa. And if you didn't catch the first part of the episode, you're going to have to go back and watch it because it's quite a story. It's pretty awesome. And so we get to continue that now. And before we do, I just want to thank everybody for watching. By the way, if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, and you have a question, you've been watching and you're like, oh, I got to ask a question. Facebook and YouTube are the perfect places to do it because it's super easy to comment and just throw it out there and ask a question. If you don't want to be specific or anything, just say, hey, got a question and we'll get back to you. And also, this is another place to reach out with any questions. And this is a place where you can go and learn more. Can you just, Melissa, go ahead and tell everybody what they're going to find when they go to your website?
When they go to my website, they're going to find ways that I work with people one-to-one on getting to the root cause of their health issue, typically a chronic health issue, as well as training programs that I offer, detox programs and training programs in allowing you to be the guide on your health journey. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, and our spiritual body, because that's how we get to total health. And as I continue to share my story here, you will understand more about that as well.
Love it. Love it. So yes, go ahead and scan that QR code and please get in touch with her because there is more to the story. And we haven't even got to the craziest part here. Or what I think is kind of like, I've never heard of this before. You're going to blow your mind, everybody. So you went okay. Tell me if I'm getting ahead of ourselves here, but you did not use anesthesia for your surgery.
Correct. And you're getting ahead of me. So
okay.
Teaser, that's the teaser to wait to stay for. Yes. So where I was at was, being in that place of doubt and then asking, how is this happening for me? Yes. And getting that answer and then realizing, okay, so what is the first action step I can take in order to stay out of fear? Because as long as I'm taking action, I'm feeling in control and I can keep moving forward in that place of hope and in that place of knowing that I'm looking after me, right? And so that answer was, I was driving through the town where my naturopathic doctor was. And so why don't I stop in and book a high dose vitamin C treatment? Because I've just explained the benefits of high dose vitamin C on a cancer journey, right? Yep. And so I did that. And then once I got home and for the rest of that week, I will be very honest, I was oscillating between and then nope, get out of fear. What can you do? And then get out of fear. What can you do? Right? I reached out to another medical doctor, naturopathic doctor that I knew locally in town, and she also did high dose vitamin C treatments. And when I spoke to her, she initially said, you know what, with melanoma, you don't mess around, follow their protocol. And then I said, wait a minute, this is what I'm thinking. Would you just give me your feedback? And she goes, okay. And I told her my plan, which was the high dose vitamin C treatments, doing some energy healing, doing some timeline therapy, which I'll explain in a moment, understanding what triggered that cancer to shift in my body from being the thick icing on the cake and totally, benign to then going down into the skin and becoming metastatic malignant melanoma. And all dis-ease is triggered by a significant emotional event.
Yes.
And so I was wanting to trace that back, because when I understood that, I could do something about it, right? So by the time I finished explaining my thoughts to her, which, it only took about 5 minutes, she said, you know what? I think that's a really solid plan. And you don't need to have your lymph nodes taken out now. Do all of this first. And then if you need to make further decisions down the line, you can. However, you may not need to. So I felt good that I had support of another medical opinion. I reached out to an energy healer as well. And so we did some energy work around releasing the cancer from my body. I did reach out to a practitioner of German New Medicine, and I have some limited training in this, which is why I know about it. I didn't feel that it was something that I could do on my own. And I sought her guidance in figuring out exactly what happened. What were the significant emotional events? And it made total sense once I figured that out. Then what I was able to do was I was able to use timeline therapy, which is a therapy that I do for others, which releases the 7 major negative emotions that we carry in our bodies, right? Stuffed down emotion gets carried in our body and causes dis-ease. Happened. And society programs us to stuff down our emotions with things like, girls don't cry, boys don't cry, put your big girl panties on, all those things we've all heard, right?
Yep.
And so I had these emotions from those significant emotional events stuffed down. So now I'm able to use timeline therapy to release them. And this is working with the power of our unconscious mind. Remember I mentioned earlier, spiritual body, mental body, emotional body, physical body?
Yeah.
I'm working with the physical body with the high dose vitamin C, right? Now I'm using timeline therapy to work with the emotional body and release the stuffed down emotions that were behind this cancer changing in my body. Then what I did is I released limiting decisions. That's the mental body. And on that particular occasion, what I needed to release was doubt. Doubt in my ability to heal myself because of the powerful programming that we are all living under, that there's only one way to heal from cancer. And even though I know what I know, I still had that programming in there that was triggering doubt. And I needed to release the doubt. And once I released the doubt, I was able to stand in my power. And I didn't oscillate anymore. I knew that I could do this way. And that allowed me to then be able to go back to the plastic surgeon and say to her, I don't want to go under general for this surgery. I'm not having my lymph nodes removed. I would like to do this under local surgery. And she said, no, it's going to be too big of a surgery. We need something more than that. I went, okay, what do you suggest? Because I don't want to go under general. And she said, well, we could do a nerve block. And I went, okay, I could do a nerve block. Let's do that. And I told her my protocol and she supported that. And I said that I also wasn't going to use anesthesia because I'm a hypnotherapist and I know the power of trance states. And I know that back before anesthesia, surgeries were done on soldiers in war when they were in a hypnotic trance, a deep hypnotic trance. And so part of me is just curious. I know it's possible. I'm going to try it for me because I have the ability to go into trance easily because I do it all the time. And I also had an app that I could use that could drop me really quickly because I know that in the hospital, they don't necessarily have, 8 minutes for me to drop myself. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And she agreed to that.
Wow.
And I started with her because I felt like I had rapport with her. And really, she was the only surgeon I needed. Right? Plastic surgeon, right? So she agreed to that. And then I said to her, and I don't need the other surgeon. And she said, well, she brought me into this, so I can't ask her not to be there. You can. I went, okay. So I had a call with the other surgeon, I think scheduled later that day or the next day. And again, I've removed all doubt. So I'm standing in my power here. And I'm being very nice and polite. And I literally took the approach of, you're a busy lady. You have a lot of people that want your services, and I don't need them because I'm not going under general and you're not taking out my lymph nodes. So I only need the plastic surgeon. So why don't you go serve the people that need your services?
Wow.
And she said to me, that's not the protocol. At this point, I said, I understand that's not your protocol. However, I will be following my protocol. Man. And she reluctantly said, okay. On the day, it turned out she was scheduled at the hospital, and she actually did the incision to remove the mole, and the plastic surgeon closed it all up.
Wow.
And I think that's truly because then both of them get paid. So whatever that is, right? Whatever that is.
Yes, you are probably not too far off there. Yeah.
However, what was really incredible about my experience at the hospital, and I couldn't have asked for things to have gone better, is that, and I worked with probably 9 different people touched me in that process that day. And every single one of them I explained, I am not having anesthesia. I am using my trance state rather than anesthesia, and I'll have a nerve block. They insisted that I had to have an IV in my arm with nothing in it. I let them put the bag in case of emergency. And then I went to have the nerve block, and I explained to that doctor, I don't need anesthesia. I'm just going to use my trance state to drop me down. And she was lovely and said, fine. And if you need anything, let me know. I had the nerve block, no anesthesia. After that, the anesthesiologist came to talk to me about what I wanted during surgery. And I said to him, I don't want anything. And he's like, what? And then the other doctor was still there. And she said, yeah, she just did the nerve block without anesthesia. She's got trance state frequencies to help drop her in, and she did great. He goes, okay. He goes, I'll be right behind your head the entire surgery. If you need something, you just need to put your hand up and I'll get anesthesia into you. I went, okay, thank you. And then a nurse came out to take me into the OR. And the first thing she does was grab my phone, my eye mask, and my earbuds and goes, you can't have these in OR. And I said, yes, I can. It's been approved. And the other doctor was still there and said, it's her anesthesia protocol. She's allowed it. I went into the surgery and they said, how are you doing? I said, I am great. My leg is asleep and I am awake. And that's how I want to be. And they got me all comfy. And I was joking with them because I was actually really comfy. They were putting warm blankets over me and I'm lying on my side. I'm like, you guys are making me so comfy. I'm never going to want to leave. And I tapped in my earbuds and I started my trance frequencies and put my eye mask on, and I was good. And I was aware of a stitch being pulled through at one point. I don't know if it was the first or second stitch. There wasn't pain. It was just sensation.
Yeah.
And then I dropped again, and the whole surgery was about 50 minutes. And at the end, they woke me up. I actually, in that trance state, you can hear things, right? So I heard a phone ring at one point, started wondering if it was mine because it was taking a while to be answered. And then I heard a surgeon kind of say hello, and I didn't really hear anything else. And then I heard the goodbye. Again, our brain is used to hearing hello and goodbye on a call.
Sure.
Nothing else was, coming into the trance state. And at the end, they said, you're done now. And I turned all the music off. And as I left the room, I turned to an anesthesiologist and I thanked him. He said, what are you thanking me for? I didn't do anything for you. I said, yes, you did. You allowed me to do this my way. And that means more to me than anything in this world. And then I went back to the main room where the nurse was checking me out. And really, at this point, I hadn't thought that it was a super big deal that I hadn't had any anesthesia, because in my mind, I had a nerve block, right?
Yeah.
And then she's at the computer at the end of the bed that I'm on and goes, wait a minute, you didn't have any anesthesia today? And I said, no, I had my trance frequencies and a nerve block. And she goes, everybody has anesthesia for a nerve block. And I'm like, well, I didn't need it. And then she goes, and then everybody has anesthesia for the surgery. And I'm like, I didn't need it. And that's when I realized it was a big deal, because she said, I've never seen that before. She goes, this is the easiest checkout ever, because I don't have to have you sign any waivers. I don't have to give you any instructions. You can just get dressed and leave.
Man.
And so I did. And then as I believe I said earlier, after that, I had a check-in with the plastic surgeon 2 days later, at a week, at a month, at 3 months, at 6 months, at a year, etc. And every single time, she just kept telling me, you are healing so quickly. I'm so impressed with your healing. And the reality is my body was able to heal because it wasn't flooded with all of those toxins that they would have otherwise put in me. And that was their comparative.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. I'm like, I'm still not sure. Like that, how is that even? I mean, I love it. I'm totally with you. I don't know if I would have I'm not sure I'd be brave enough to try a surgery like what I've had over the years without anesthesia, but
mine was 50 minutes. Woo! Yours are longer.
That's true. That's true.
And if you have the ability to do a nerve block with it, like the trance frequencies that I have can play up to 8 hours. Right.
Wow.
So personally, I would absolutely do it again. And as I said at the very beginning, these were my decisions, my choices. And because I know what I know about hypnosis, and I've been hypnotized many times, it is self-hypnosis, and I hypnotize other people, I chose to experiment on this for myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anybody else has to do it. People can make different choices on their cancer healing journey and skip the radiation and the chemo and still have anesthesia for the surgery part and still come out way ahead.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And what I've been hearing this entire time that we've been doing this is, I'm in charge. I'm in charge.
Yes.
I'm in charge. I'm advocating for myself. I'm standing up for myself. And they're listening to me, and they're actually doing what I'm asking them to do, which I don't know about. I don't know about every hospital and every surgeon and every anesthesiologist, but man, that sounds so rare. So, I mean, there's so many anomalies here. I've lost count. I don't know about anybody, because you live in Canada, correct?
I live in Canada.
You're in Canada. I'm in the US.
Yes.
I can't imagine going into even without, I mean, my surgeries are typically brain surgeries, so that's a little different. They would probably really frown on that with that. But really any surgery, I can't imagine an American doctor going, oh yeah, sure, go for it. Yeah, no big deal. Yeah, you want to do that? Sure. What's your plan? Let's do your plan. Never. There's no way. In an OR. It's
not like they ever asked me my plan, right?
Well, that's true.
Right.
That's true.
I was telling them, and however, I was telling them from a place of respect.
Yes.
From a place of love. I wasn't telling them I knew better than them. I wasn't telling them their way was wrong. I was simply being really firm in, this is how I would like this to go. And as I said, I was very clear about thanking them afterwards, because I was also aware I was teaching them something that day. I was teaching them it could be done differently in order to create an opportunity for them to allow it to be different for other people moving forward. And so I was so grateful for the entire experience. Afterwards, remember I said 9 people. Mm-hmm. I was consciously choosing to remember all of their names.
Wow.
And I emailed the next day, because I only had contact with the 2 surgeons, and I emailed it to both surgeons, and I listed every single person's name with how you helped me that day.
Wow.
And I sent them information on the healing frequencies so that they could look at, because the science and the research is there.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Doctors and dentists have in the past used hypnotherapy for patients, particularly needle phobic patients. However, before anesthesia, this is how it was done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wanted to share my gratitude and the science behind it, because maybe one of them would look into it. Maybe. I don't even know if all 9 people got the email. I asked it to be forwarded to all 9 people. Yeah. I don't know. I am aware that I planted some seeds for them to realize things could be done differently so that other people can benefit from that moving forward. And that's how we change the system.
Yep.
One person at a time. And my belief is, honestly, if you have a doctor that isn't allowing you to listen to your body, you need to find a new doctor.
And that is totally okay, everybody, by the way. Hello.
Yes.
I don't know about yes, people in the US get this idea, maybe it's in Canada, maybe it's everywhere. I don't know. They get the idea that, let me say it this way. We'll go to the next car mechanic if we don't like the first one, if what the first one says.
Right.
We'll go to another hairdresser. We'll go to another grocery store.
Yes.
We'll go to another practitioner of this and this and this and this. But when you get into the medical world, for some reason, we feel like, oh no, the doctor knows everything. We have to do what the doctor. No. If you don't, they're just a care provider, just like everybody else. If you don't like what they're saying, go to another one.
Because if you don't like what they're saying, that's your intuition telling you that you need to find another way.
Exactly.
Right. And so absolutely, you've said advocate for yourself. That is absolutely critical in this day and age.
Yes.
And trust your intuition. And second and third opinions are absolutely okay. Absolutely okay.
Yep.
And in the intro, you said that I had a profound moment where I was like, I'm done with the medical model. And I know exactly what that moment was. And it wasn't the first time. It was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Like I was losing faith in it. And then after that, it was like, I'm done. Right. And so that was when my daughter was having tummy aches at school every day. She was in grade 1 after lunch and putting her head down on her desk and completely non-functioning. Mm-hmm. And I took her to the doctor asking could we do an ultrasound? What's going on in her gut? Let's get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
And the answer I got was, all little girls get tummy aches. She'll grow out of it. And then I'm like, well, how long does that take? And I'm in the corporate world at this point, right? So I don't know what I know now.
Yeah.
And of course they don't have an answer to how long does that take.
No.
And my kid is suffering, and what parent wants to watch their child suffer? So I wasn't willing to accept that. So that's when I went to the naturopathic doctor and gave them the symptoms and said, is this something that you might have some resources that will help with? Yes. Let's run a food sensitivity test. Okay. That sounds like a great idea. We do that and find out, guess what? She's sensitive to dairy and gluten, which I didn't know. And I've been feeding her that 3 times a day for 7 days a week for 6 years of her life.
Yeah.
And her body couldn't process all of that. So I discovered that, removed the dairy, removed the gluten, and in 2 weeks, she's back to her normal, happy self.
Nice.
And then I go back to the mainstream doctor because the naturopath goes, let's still rule anything else out. Let's do an ultrasound. I can't order that. The mainstream doctor has to order that. So I go back to the mainstream doctor to order that. And she reluctantly agreed after telling me there's no science in food sensitivity testing. I'd gone in there thinking, I'm going to tell the doctor about this because she needs to know, because then she can tell all the other families of little girls with tummy aches, because all little girls get tummy aches.
Yeah.
And I get told there's no science in that. That was the moment that I went, okay, I'm not putting, the programming is, as you said earlier, go to the doctor knows best. That was the moment when I truly knew the doctor doesn't always know best.
Mm-mm.
They can be a guide. And your body knows best, or as a mom of your child, your intuition is telling you what is right for your child. And if that means going to a different doctor, like I went to a naturopathic doctor and got those results, right? Yeah. You have lived in your body your entire life. You are your own best doctor. And that's what I mean by trust your intuition. You talk about it's not all in your head. I have on the front of my website that you're not crazy. Your symptoms are real. And I have so many clients that have come to me where the doctor said, it's all in your head. Go see the therapist and they're going to put you on an antidepressant. And then I run lab tests and find out that, they've got bacterial overgrowth and yeast overgrowth, and that's why they have no energy. And we heal their gut and they're back to normal and can keep up with their 3, children.
Yeah. I'm telling you.
Your intuition will guide you. Yes. Don't ignore it. And in fact, symptoms are your body's way of talking to you.
Exactly.
And they're not to be ignored, even though, again, societal programming is to ignore them. Aches and pains are normal for aging. No, they're not. Aches and pains are the way your body is trying to get your attention and ask you to do something differently.
Yes.
And writing things off with excuses like, oh, my dad had heart disease, so I'm going to get heart disease. Cancel, cancel, cancel. My mother had cancer, so I'm going to get breast cancer. Cancel, cancel, cancel.
Yeah.
That's all the programming. And it's so scientifically incorrect. With epigenetics, and if you've ever watched Bruce Lipton, I had him on my podcast last year, he's now saying less than 1% of disease is a direct relation to genes. Everything else are the lifestyle factors I mentioned earlier: stress, poor sleep, poor nutrition, toxic load.
Yeah.
When we change the lifestyle factors, we don't trigger the switch to turn on the diseases we're genetically predisposed to.
Right. Yeah.
We
Exactly.
are in control of our health and the choices we make.
That is profound for a lot of people in this world, in this day and age. So I'm so glad you said that in such plain language, because it's true. You are in control, even if you don't feel like you are, even though the system is telling you you're not, you are.
Yes.
And so thank you for saying that out loud. It's true. Unfortunately, time flies when you're having fun. We are almost out of time, but I want to make sure that we cap this properly here. We got about a minute left. What do you want to leave our audience with in this last minute or so?
I have a favorite quote, and it is literally, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. That is the power of our thought. The nocebo effect is also powerful because of the power of our thought. And when a doctor tells you something, whether they're telling you you'll never walk again, cancel, 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 you'll have this disease for the rest of your life, cancel, cancel, cancel. If you leave that office and you focus on that and you have that thought looping, you bring that into your life.
Yep.
And I invite you to write your own story instead.
Nice.
And say no thank you to that story. And tap into community, tap into my podcast. If you need support, feel free to reach out to me, because you can write your own healing story. And you don't have to accept what you're told.
You absolutely do not. And thank you for saying that out loud. Yes, it is true. And I am so thankful that we got to do this, and so thankful that we got to get your story out, because I know when we talked initially, I was blown away by your story, and I feel like I'm falling out of my chair already with it again. And I've already heard, and we've talked about it already. I'm still like, my jaw, I'm going to pick it up off the floor here in a minute. What an amazing journey. And thank you so much for being here and sharing it with us and with our audience. And, stick around for just a minute after the show, just for a second. I know you got something to get to, but if you don't mind, for 30 seconds, I wanted to ask you something. But thank you so much for being here.
And I also just very quickly share 2 books as resources for people going through a cancer journey. So one of them is called Radical Remission by Dr. Kelly A. Turner.
Nice.
And case studies of all these people that have healed themselves from cancer, and 9 different things that every single person does on their healing journey, which I actually believe should be a healing journey for any disease, not just cancer. Powerful book. Another one is called Hope for Cancer by Dr. Antonio Jimenez. And I share those resources because I don't want you just to listen to it from me. There's other people out there sharing this wisdom so that you can share this with others in your life, because there's a lot of people going through cancer right now. And these books will give them hope. Yeah.
And that's true. And that's important. We gotta make sure that people know there are resources out there, because some people, you just don't know what you don't know sometimes.
Exactly.
And so thank you for those resources. That's amazing. Maybe we'll just put those in the resources or of the show notes and that kind of thing, and we'll get it out there, because that's important. So
yes,
so thank you so much, Melissa, for being
very
here.
welcome.
Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Man, oh my gosh, everybody, holy smokes, if you're not picking yourself off the floor right now, I don't know. That was awesome. So, all right, everybody, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for watching. If you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, thank you. If you're watching on E360, thank you. Like, subscribe, share, all the things, and join us for our next episode, which will be on Friday, May 16th. Till then, have an amazing day.